Ready when you are.
There we go. Good afternoon and welcome to the Vale of Glamorgan Cabinet meeting taking place today on Thursday the 5th of June. I'm Councillor Bronwyn Brooks, Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Sustainable Places. I'm chairing the meeting for the moment on behalf of the Leader of the Council and Cabinet Member for Performance and Resources, Councillor Liz Burnett. She's actually coming back from another meeting, so if she's not able to arrive in time, we'll submit her apologies to the meeting. May I remind everyone present that the meeting is being live streamed as well as recorded via the internet and this recording archived for future viewing. Could all participants, be they in the chamber or attending remotely, please mute themselves when not speaking, and then that will help avoid any background noise or feedback when other participants are speaking. If a participant wishes to speak, can they please put their hand up if attending in the chamber, or use the raise hand function for those who are attending remotely. Please ensure that all debate is raised verbally and not via the chat function for the sake of the recording. The chat function may be used to highlight any technical issues and or to grab the attention of the Chair of Democratic Services Officer. If any participant has difficulty speaking or being heard when they're addressing the committee, then they should let myself as Chair or the Democratic Officer know. And if they have a webcam, then they should try turning this off, as this will help the broadband or Wi-Fi bandwidths so they can at least hear and be heard. So I'm going to move on to the agenda today. So the first item is apologies for absence. So apart from Councillor Liz Burnett, are there any other apologies? I don't think so. I think everybody's either online or in the chamber.
That's correct,
Yep.
Chair, that's right.
Okay. So item number 2, which are the minutes of the meeting which are held on the 22nd of May 2025. So I am happy to move those minutes. If I can have some.
I would second.
Okay, thank you. And then item 3 then, which is to receive declarations of interest and the nature of such interest into the Council's Code of Conduct. So do we have any declarations of interest?
Thank you, Chair. There were none formally received for this meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the first item number 4 then, which is a report of the Cardiff Bay Advisory Committee, which was held on the 30th of April 2025. So I'm going to hand over to Councillor Mark Wilson to take this report.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. Yes, we had a very interesting meeting on the 30th of April and we covered quite lots of different areas. I'll just provide some sort of digest of what we covered. First of all, we looked at what we always do is look at navigational safety. And first thing what we discovered is that 415 tonnes of rubbish were removed during the bay during 24 and 25. This excluded all recyclable materials and wood, which was dealt with separately. So as you can see, Cardiff Bay Advisory oversee what goes on in the bay. They're very much committed to waste separation, as the Vale Council is. So that's really good. We also, the CHC, that's the Cardiff Harbour Authority, also had 14 separate litter picking sessions with 528 volunteers and 765 volunteer hours. This included also the world record litter pick at the barrage and the Doctor Who beach. So we're really pleased about that. I know that was conducted at the Cardiff side of the river, but nevertheless, it achieved so much in actually so little time, thanks to the huge amounts of volunteers that we used for that. We also got a study going on by PhD students who are looking at the water management system. And as you know, if you go down to, especially the River Ely, you'll see sometimes aeration going on, which it gives a question of being little puddles of air blowing up. So what they're looking into is whether that aeration system can be turned off or not, and will it make a difference to the oxygen levels? And that's what the PhD students are studying in order to look at the future. Because obviously, if they can do it without the aeration, that's great, but obviously we've got to look at things like that because it could have an impact upon fish and everything if we don't get the oxygen levels right. As you may or may not know, it seems unbelievable to me, but it's 25 years ago we had the barrage, and it seems like yesterday to me. And the fact is, we're going to have an anniversary celebration very much this year, and part of that anniversary is design a bay banner competition for local primary schools. And 25 designs would be selected, turned into banners and displayed around the bay over the summer. Details can be found cardiffharbour.com/design a bay banner. So people want to have a look at that link. It's on our website and people can log on and encourage your local primary school to get involved. I know they'd be very pleased to see entries. Moving on, regarding the barrage itself, the saltwater shaft, which is 112 millimetres valve and actuators, have been delivered and installed. The Cardiff Harbour Authority was currently looking at options to isolate sections of pipework in order to put the valve back into service. So obviously, there's the sort of things that we do to help to improve maintenance of the area there regarding the barrage. And often the barrage locks were used to load plant and equipment for Flatholm Island onto a landing craft. And that's sort of another job that the barrage does as well. Mobile cranes up to 250 tonnes were deployed on site, and a large area around the control building was fenced off. All vehicle movements were well marshalled and there was no issues. Further loading was being planned for mid-May. And as you may know, we also have a fish pass there, and that's also very important for it to be well maintained and complete. And I'm glad to say that the fish path is very much back into operation. And we're also going to install an eel pass as well on the fish gate along the first fifth pass, which was installed last year. And also, finally, the two sluice hydraulic cylinders, which have been removed, require further work. It was helped to install these during May, with the sluice maintenance camp being planned in around this. We then went on, after a brief discussion, to look at NRW. So NRW, which is Natural Resources Wales, also gives an update. They look at very much the things like dissolved oxygen levels. And what they discovered is that dissolved levels are really good. They're above the 5 milligram level threshold, which is good. We also had work to repair the saltwater flushing shaft. It was ongoing, as I mentioned before. And there'd be no incidences of pollution at the Ferry Road Landhill site, which is also good. And also very few pollution incidents as well. There was a little one with an oil slick identifying the bay at a location, but really they couldn't find where it was. But doesn't seem to be a big issue. Obviously, we're still getting fish coming over. We're getting elver coming over. We're getting glass eels, which is really good over the fish pass, and it was reopened on the 8th of April. Also, we had Blackweir Docks feeder canal and abstract licence requirements. ABP, that's Associated British Ports, we're currently working on design for new screen across the feeder canal intake. This will be presented design by NRW by the end of this month. Now, obviously, we've had very good weather at that time in April, and therefore the water levels were fairly low. And obviously, that meant that we could do more work in the area as well. So we had a discussion about that. In the last bit, when we have any other business, as you know, as I mentioned earlier, we're having a 25-year anniversary. There will be events going on. We will try and publicise that as much as possible. We're also very keen for people to walk over the coastal path, and that's very vital in this area in particular. And a lot of people do pursue active travel in this area. And obviously, we're looking at that. And the data next meeting will be the AGM, which will be held in July, and I so move those minutes.
Thank you, Mark, and I'm happy to second that we move. Okay, we don't have any dissent. That's great. So moving on to agenda item 5. First of all, can I thank the Deputy Leader and everyone else for holding the fort while I was slightly delayed today, but I'm here now, perfect timing for my own report. So agenda item 5, and that is related to the Corporate Concerns and Complaints Policy Review. And this is in effect a light touch review of the corporate concerns and complaints policy review. But I think that it comes from the aim within our new Vale 2030 corporate plan to be the best that we can. And I think that we were not hugely happy with the processes in place for complaints and concerns, because complaints take different forms. And so, originally we adopted the Welsh Government's model concerns and complaints policy. That was right back in 2013. And so when we decided to do a light touch review, we wanted to look at how we can actually have the best possible approach to actually put things right if there are concerns, as well as having having a straightforward process if people have got some form of complaint. So if you have a look at Appendix A, which is the proposed corporate concerns and complaints policy, and one thing that's actually helpful, and it's an addition in this, is on page 3, where it says what is a complaint, and this is actually a sort of a format from the Public Service Ombudsman for Wales, and it's, well, what is a complaint and what isn't a complaint? And so a complaint might be about a request for a service. So if a street light is faulty, well, you wouldn't put that as a complaint. We just want to get that fixed, don't we? Actually trying to overturn what is viewed as a properly made decision. And quite often that we get people that, we have people that get in touch about a decision that's been made. It might have gone through scrutiny, it might have gone through cabinet, etc. But because they don't agree with it, they'll say, well, I want to put in a complaint. So we have to find a way of dealing with that. But when somebody says that, the standard of service that's being provided is not sufficient, then we should have a clear policy for dealing with that. And personally, the first stop is to actually make sure that service is of suitable standard. But if there is a complaint, there is actually a laid out process for it within the policy, which is stage 1, which is an informal resolution. And as I said, we would prefer to deal with things straight away and just get it sorted so that everybody's happy. If there's an issue there, then there's a stage 2 investigation, and it can go on. And if we still can't quite get it right, then people obviously have got course to go to the Public Service Ombudsman. So this is as I said, is trying to simplify the process so that people are able to get the services that they want and that they should have from the council. So this has come to us today for our approval, and if I can find the recommendations. So we will approve the, subject to recommendations obviously, approve the revised corporate concerns and complaints policy, but then it will be sent to the Governance and Audit Committee for consideration, so that their views are referred back if they should have some, and we'll then talk about it again as a reference. Obviously, if they don't have any comments, then the report would be considered as agreed. So, as I said, the 2 recommendations that we have are just that firstly, that subject to recommendation 2, Cabinet approves the revised corporate concerns and complaints policy, and recommendation 2 is that the report and revised policy are referred to Governance and Audit Committee for consideration, with any views referred back to Cabinet. Should there be no comments from the committee, this report and policy would be considered as agreed, and I'd move.
And I'll second those recommendations.
Thank you. And don't have any hands up or anything, so that's agreed. Super. So going on to agenda item 6, this is back to Mark, and Cabinet Member for Neighbourhood and Building Services, and in relation to 5 Mile Lane, an extension of the land agent contract and capital programme revision. This is a part 1 report, and we will deal with the part 2 report later on the agenda. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Leader. Yeah, just to say, the 5 Mile Lane basically a report titled 5 Mile Lane Extension of Land Agent Contract and Capital Programme Revisions. Can I first say, before I even discuss it, congratulate the council for the 5 Mile Lane itself. It's made a huge difference to the people of the Vale Glamorgan and visitors. And it's a fantastic project that was completed quite a number of years ago, but I know we all greatly appreciate it. And I know it helps travel around the Vale Glamorgan. Basically, what this report is trying to do here is to extend the contract of the council's land agent and also to increase the sum in the capital programme. And we're doing that for reasons because obviously when you do undertake a project like that, there may be areas of compensation that do need to be required. So I'm now going to be moving to the recommendations. The first recommendation that Cabinet notes the content of this report, review of taking decision on the possible retention of the council's current land agent, including increased financial ceiling to permit this latter on this agenda. That Cabinet also notes the requirements to increase both the 24-25 and 25-26 capital programmes to conclude all outstanding land compensation claims. Number 3, that the contents report considered in conjunction with the Part 2 report later on this agenda. And number 4, the Council agrees use of its own decision as set out at sections 15.14 of the Cabinet Constitution for recommendation 1, 2 and 3 and with the associated Part 2 report, and I so move.
Thank you, Mark, and I'm happy to second. No dissent, so either online or in the room, so that's agreed. Thank you. So let's have a think. Sorry, I've just lost my way slightly. So we don't have an agenda item 7. We don't have any, we don't have any urgent items. So we do, though, have an item for discussion on today's agenda under Part 2, as you just mentioned, that was linked to item 6. As these are matters that are considered to be confidential, we would therefore need to move into private session where such matters can be discussed under Part 2. So at this point, I need to ask Cabinet to agree to move to Part 2 and ask the Cabinet Officer to stop the recording of this open session so that no members of the public are present after this point and only relevant parties are still present in the room. Following the meeting, the outcome of the Part 2 discussions will be formally captured as part of the minutes of the meeting and will advise all parties of the final decisions of the Cabinet for the relevant items. Therefore, can I formally move Part 2?
And I'll formally second that.
Thank you. And ask the Cabinet Member Officer to ensure only relevant parties remain from this point on and for the live stream and recording to be stopped, please. So if you could confirm that the live stream and recording have been stopped.